Howdy folks, hope you're all having a good one, and welcome to another episode of Mingles with Jingles. First, cancer update time. As I'm sure many of you are aware, I had a colonoscopy 2 weeks ago, where they detected what they thought was very probably cancer, as well as removed a couple of polyps. The surgeon said that they could have removed the suspected cancerous growth there and then, because it wasn't that big. But they wanted to leave it in place so they could do a CT scan, which happened on Friday the same week. Then I was booked in for an appointment with the surgeon the following Tuesday to discuss the results of the biopsies and the CT scan and plan the way to proceed. So I turned up on the Tuesday for the interviews, not the right word, consultation with the surgeon. This is where things get awkward. The CT scan results were in and they were good. There was no sign that the cancer had spread anywhere, so, that's good news. The problem was he didn't have the biopsy results back from the lab yet, and this is where things got awkward, because without those biopsy results, there's no positive confirmation of a cancer diagnosis, even though, he's sitting there looking at the CT scans. And obviously he's got the footage from the colonoscopy as well. This wasn't his first rodeo. I mean, this guy had been operating on people's bowels for 30 years. He knows what cancer looks like when he sees it. But without that biopsy result, he couldn't say so. Yeah, I know. It was faintly ridiculous. I mean, I knew it was cancer. He knew it was cancer. Everybody in the room knew it was cancer. So there was a certain amount of reading between the lines going on. So without at any point saying, you have bowel cancer, we immediately started talking about cancer treatment options. Because we all knew it was cancer, it's just they couldn't actually confirm it because no biopsy results. So with this not cancer diagnosis, we immediately started talking about cancer treatment options. So this not cancer was type 1, very small, hadn't spread anywhere, and could be treated successfully with keyhole surgery. There was no need for open surgery. Keyhole surgery would entail 3 to 5 days in hospital rather than a couple of weeks, and then I could be home and eating again normally and cured. So all that remained was to book a surgery date, which he of course couldn't do without a positive diagnosis of bowel cancer, which he couldn't give me because the biopsy results weren't in. So what they said was, and he even started checking his own appointment schedule to see when he was available for his next surgery, which he personally couldn't do until May, but that's only a couple of weeks away now, although he wasn't the only surgeon there, but he didn't have access to his colleagues' timetables and schedules. So I'm going to get booked in for keyhole surgery. I'm going to be operated on. I'll be in hospital for 3 to 5 days. I just don't know exactly when yet. He did say if they haven't contacted me by the end of the week, I should call back, because it's just those biopsy results that they're waiting on. Now, I forgot to do that, so that one's on me. I should have called back on Friday, and by the time I remembered, the ward was closed for the weekend. So I'm calling back again today, Monday. Obviously, I'm recording this on Sunday, but the day this goes out, I will call the hospital again, find out what's going on. I mean, they've even already sent me a surgery preparation kit, right? With all kinds of stuff there to get me ready for undergoing surgery without being able to actually book a surgery date. It's like I said, it's all kind of ridiculous, but it is what it is. So hopefully by the time this video goes out, they'll be booking me a surgery date, because this not actual cancer that I have, which we all know is cancer, but nobody is allowed to actually say it yet. It's easily treatable. It's stage 1. I mean, it's a tiny little thing. It's only about 1 inch across. It hasn't spread anywhere, so they'll simply just remove a section of my bowel, stitch the remainder back up, and I should be fine. Which is obviously, a huge relief. And I have my good friend Eddie to thank for this, because if he hadn't died from bowel cancer last year, I would have probably done the same thing as him and just thought, oh, bit of blood in my stool. I'm sure it's fine. It'll be nothing. It'll go away by itself. which is what Eddie did, and it killed him. So in a very real sense, Eddie saved my life. And it's the reason why I keep banging on in these videos that if you suspect there's anything wrong, no matter how insignificant the symptoms might be, and bleeding out of your arse is a fairly significant symptom, but no matter how insignificant the symptoms might be, get yourself checked. Don't do what men always do and just sit there thinking, it'll be fine. It'll sort itself out, because it might not be fine. And it might not sort itself out. And the longer you leave it, the worse it's going to get. So guys, don't try and tough it out. You might think you're tough. Cancer is tougher. Get yourself checked. Anyway, moving on. So, in the news this week, well, the gaming news at least, another reminder of just exactly how volatile digital ownership of games can be. And yep, it's Ubisoft again. So some of you may be aware, probably not an awful lot because it wasn't a completely popular game, but Ubisoft had a game called The Crew, which they decided wasn't earning enough money. It's too expensive to keep the servers running. Even though the majority of the game is playable in single player, it's another one of those games that requires an online connection. So they shut the game down, shut the servers down. It's no longer possible to play The Crew. This is not the first time this has happened, but it's the first time a games publisher has taken the ruthlessly draconian steps to ensure that the game stays gone that Ubisoft just has. Because while it's not unusual for online-only games to get shut down, what Ubisoft have actually done now is completely quashed the ability of anybody to maybe keep the game going on a private server. Because, I mean, who cares, right? I mean, Ubisoft obviously doesn't care. They've shut the game down. They've closed the servers. They have given up on the possibility of earning any more money from, well, people being able to play The Crew. So why should they care whether or not people still have the game installed on their systems? But apparently they do. Because they haven't just shut the servers down and delisted the game from sale. They've actually gone a step further, and this is a first, because as well as shutting the game down and killing the servers, you see, the thing is, when you buy a game online, you're not actually buying the game. In fact, when you buy a game, if you can even still do that in a computer store, you're not buying the game. You're buying a license to play the game. And what Ubisoft have done with The Crew is they've revoked everybody's licenses to play the game. So you can't even have it installed on your hard drive anymore. Why? Good question. I'm not ruling out simple petty spite as an option, although it's possible that there are some licensing issues, because apparently the game included a lot of licensed soundtracks. But, well, one, it's Ubisoft, and two, Occam's razor generally applies. Don't look for complicated answers to problems when simple answers will do, and so I'm going to go with petty spite, because, well, refer you back to point one, it's Ubisoft. So, revoking licenses means that since you're no longer allowed to even own a copy of the game that you paid for, that rules out the possibility of private servers to keep the game going. Which is really bizarre, because, I mean, back to my original question. Who cares, right? If you've given up on the game, if you've shut down your own servers, why would you care if somebody else is running a private server so that they can continue to enjoy the game that they've paid for? But apparently Ubisoft does care, so now you can't. You know, a recent study by the Games History Foundation found that 87% of all of the games that have ever been created are now unplayable, unless you're prepared to dip into piracy or find some kind of fan-created archive or mess around with emulators. And there are certain games publishers that really don't like you messing around with emulators and sue the emulator developers. Nintendo are quite famous for this. And I'm struggling to come up with a good reason for any of this that isn't just because they're spiteful bastards. I mean, there's probably some kind of legal precedent that they are worrying is going to get set if they allow people to resurrect all of their dead games without some kind of legal fight. But But honestly, I don't really care, because we're talking about abandonware here. We're talking about games that have been abandoned, that have been dumped, that are no longer supported by the publishers. Games that people have paid money for, in the vast majority of cases, that they are simply no longer able to enjoy. Why should the publishers care if people continue to enjoy games that the publishers themselves have washed their hands of? But apparently they do. So you can't. Unless you're prepared to break a few laws here and there. And honestly, the whole situation, well, it's just shit. There is, however, a YouTuber who goes by the name of Ross Scott, who's launched a campaign to at least try to do something about it. It's called Stop Killing Games, and he's using The Crew as his primary example, but it's by far not the only one. The hope is that they can win a legal victory and set some kind of precedent which would force publishers to keep the games available. Even if they're no longer supporting them, at least keep them available so people can continue playing these dead games. I don't have much hope that he's going to be successful, but, well, you never know. Next up, spot of good news. Starting today and running until the 22nd of April, right after Next Fest, Steam are now running FPS Fest. So all kinds of bargains available on first-person shooters. Some of the titles that have confirmed to be on sale during the fest include one of my personal favourites, RoboCop Rogue City, as well as one of my not personal favourites, Far Cry 6. So, and a huge range of first-person shooters between. So that's Steam FPS Fest, currently running, starting today and continuing until the 22nd of April. In other news, the Fallout TV show is out, and I haven't watched it yet. And the only reason I haven't watched it is because I'm currently finishing off Three Body Problem on Netflix, which is really good, by the way. And I want to finish that before I start binging out on Fallout, the TV show. I have heard good things about it, however, so I am looking forward to it. However, if you have watched it, and I'm assuming this was in the first episode, although, it was in the trailer as well, a scene of Walton Goggins, who post-war is a ghoul, but pre-war was a Vault-Tec salesman. And there's a clip, again, I'm assuming in the first episode, but it's right there in the trailer too, where he's extolling the virtues of Vault-Tec vaults. And there's a part where a phone number flashes up on screen. I think it was like 213-25-VAULT. Call Vault-Tec now and secure your future, and so on, and so on, and so on. And so it was inevitable. It was only a matter of time before somebody phoned that number to find out what happens. And of course a number of people have, and it turns out that if you call the number that flashes on screen during the Vault-Tec commercial in the Fallout TV show, you're treated to a couple of seconds of extremely loud and frantic screaming before the line goes dead. Presumably the people at Vault-Tec headquarters didn't make it into the vault in time. And I think that's really cool. Not that they didn't make it into the vault in time. I mean, yeah, okay, fair enough. But the fact that you can actually call that number, and the show's producers have anticipated that you would, and they've put something there for you. Anyway, back to Ubisoft. Yep, Ubisoft again. They just can't seem to stay out of the news lately. And it's for all the wrong reasons, and of course it is, because it's Ubisoft. So, Star Wars Outlaws. I covered this earlier on in the year in a list of games coming out in 2024, even though I didn't at the time know for sure that Star Wars Outlaws was coming out in 2024, but details. Games coming out in 2024 that I was getting really excited about. And I am still excited about Star Wars Outlaws, because I do love me some Star Wars. And there was a new trailer dropped for it this week as well, which I haven't actually seen yet. I'll have to get around to that. But what I'm not excited about is all of the different versions of the game that Ubisoft are trying to wring just that little bit more money out of you over. I'm not against, in principle, the idea of selling like premium and ultimate and deluxe versions of games, and you know what, it's your money. If you've got nothing better to spend it on, then go ahead, knock yourself out. Who am I to judge? But you knew there was a but coming, didn't you? But here's the thing. I think I bought, I can't remember what version of it was called, but way back in the mist of time when Star Wars The Old Republic came out, I bought the big box version of that. But I at least got something out of it. I got a 12-inch tall statue of Darth Malgus to go with all of the other unnecessary stuff that came with the premium edition of Star Wars The Old Republic. So yeah, I paid, I can't remember how much it was, but probably at least double what the base version of the game was going to cost. But I did at least get a statue out of it, a limited edition statue no less, that probably would have retailed on its own for at least $100 anyway. And I've still got that statue. And they weren't alone in this. I mean, there are a lot of games publishers out there that will try to extort more money out of you for, you know, ultimate editions and so on and so on. But you can get some stuff that, whether or not you think it's worth it, is entirely up to you. But I'm pretty sure there was an edition of Cyberpunk, for example, that came with an amazing kick-ass statue of V pulling a stunt on a bike. I mean, it was really cool. Whether or not you thought it was cool enough to fork out a couple of $100 for the privilege of being able to play Cyberpunk is another matter and entirely up to you. But there was actual value here for the extra money that you were prepared to pay. Of course, there's all the horror stories as well about extra merchandise included with premium editions of games that was absolutely 100% not worth the money that you were prepared to pay. Yes, that's right. It was only a matter of time before we started talking about Bethesda and all of the Fallout 76 merchandising disasters, like the pre-order canvas bag that wasn't canvas, barely even qualified as a bag, the Power Armor edition, where you got a Power Armor helmet. And I don't know what they'd made it out of, but it instantly started going mouldy the second you took it out of the box. And then there was the... I don't think this actually came with one of the editions of Fallout 76, but shortly after the launch of Fallout 76, they started advertising an alcoholic Nuka-Cola drink. And the advertising looked amazing. It came in this beautiful Nuka-Cola sort of smoky glass bottle. And then when it finally arrived, it wasn't in a beautiful Nuka-Cola smoky glass bottle at all. It was in a cheap, shitty, nasty plastic shell. And when you took the top off, you couldn't even pour the drink out of the bottle without it leaking all over and filling up the inside of the shell. You know, it was just horrible and nasty. But that's Bethesda for you. So what exactly are Ubisoft offering as an incentive for you to shell out more than double the price of the base cost of the Star Wars Outlaws games in order to get the Gold Edition? Is it decent merchandise? No. Is it shitty merchandise like Bethesda and Fallout 76? Nope, it's not even that good. So if you're prepared to pay anything from an extra $40 to $60 more for the privilege of playing Star Wars Outlaws, you get 3 days of early access. Yeah, not a week. 3 whole days of early access. You get some cosmetics for your ship and your land speeder, and you get access to the Season Pass, which is apparently 2 DLCs that will be available after launch. So, well, first, yes, they're pulling that old gag again. They're carving stuff out of the game, content that probably should and could have been included in the game at release, but which they can extort more money from you later by getting you to upgrade to the Gold or Ultimate Editions, or just having you buy the Season Pass, which of course won't be free. So if getting ripped off like this isn't enough, and for some insane reason you decide to upgrade to the Ultimate Edition by paying even more, you get even more cosmetics and a digital art book. So just to summarise, if you're prepared to pay for the Gold or Ultimate Editions of Star Wars Outlaws, for double the price of the base game, you get some pixels, you get some early access to some pixels, you get the promise of some pixels at an unannounced date in the future, and you get some more pixels. Oh, and that early access thing? I mean, I'm sure the developers are going to work their arses off to ensure that the game functions flawlessly on release, which, by the way, is apparently the 30th of August, although 27th of August if you're prepared to pay double the price of the base game. But let's be honest here, no matter how hard working or conscientious the game's developers are, there's going to be problems, because there always are. There's going to be bugs, potentially game-breaking ones. There's going to be server issues. You might not even be able to get in and play during those 3 days of early access that you've paid so much money for. So I'm not entirely sure how valuable the promise of being able to play the game 3 days in advance is going to be. We won't know until the game actually goes into early access. But based on, well, the release of every other game in the history of online gaming, it's probably not going to be 100% stable. So for double the cost of the base game, you don't even get any good merchandise, such as that offered by CD Projekt Red with Cyberpunk 2077 or Electronic Arts. I can't believe I'm praising Electronic Arts here with the release of Star Wars The Old Republic. You don't even get any shitty merchandise, such as that offered by Bethesda with Fallout 76. You get a bunch of pixels, a promise of some more pixels in the future, and then some more pixels for an extra $60. It is your money. Spend it wisely. And on that bombshell, that's it for this week's episode of Mingles.business. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you all had a fantastic weekend, and I hope the week ahead is going to be just as good, if not better. And as always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.